If Harris was the Democrat nominee in 2028, what would happen? Let's find out. Hello everybody, welcome to Politics Enhanced, and thank you all so much for clicking on today's video. Today we're going to talk about what would happen if Kamala Harris ran against JD Vance in the 2028 presidential election. However, before I begin, I kindly ask that you please like, comment, and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share with a friend so it helps small channels like mine take off. And without further ado, folks, let's get started. So, 2024 is still being counted and it's still wrapping up. However, people are already talking about 2028, which is in 4 years from now, and obviously a lot is going to hinge on this election as well. We have to see how good of a president Donald Trump is, what exactly he gets done during his second term, if he fulfills his campaign promises or not, and also who decides to run in 2028, because it will be the first election that Donald Trump is not a part of since 2016 when he first began this journey. And there's already speculation as to who exactly is going to be the Republican nominee. Obviously, we can't have a crystal ball and say who is going to be the nominee, but people are saying that it could be Ron DeSantis, Brian Kemp, JD Vance, or Glenn Youngkin. These are the current preferred selections for the GOP. And personally, I think that they're going to run JD Vance. I think he's very popular in the Republican Party right now. He's a young, new face, someone who could carry on the Trump agenda and the Trump legacy, because Trump is obviously ineligible for a second term. But the Democrat Party is a different story because they have a very weak bench. And after losing in 2024, this will be the first open election cycle really since 2016 where the Republicans don't have their candidate yet and the Democrats don't have their candidate yet. And we're looking at all the candidates that Democrats want to run. And yes, a lot of people are saying that Gavin Newsom is going to run. Some people are saying J.B. Pritzker, Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania. I don't think Ocasio-Cortez is going to run. I don't think she's electable personally. Gretchen Whitmer is a possibility. But a lot of people are talking about Kamala Harris. And specifically, they're talking about how she could win. Because now I know Twitter isn't everything, but a lot of Democrats, 41%, are saying that they want Harris to run again in 2028. So this led me to think of a hypothetical scenario. What would happen if Kamala Harris and JD Vance ran in 2028? Who would win the election? I know this is ridiculously early, but assuming everything goes well during Trump's second term, it does raise the question, who's going to take over after Donald Trump? So without further ado, we're going to fill in the safe Republican states, the states that will be going Republican by over 10 points. You have Texas, you have Iowa and Ohio, especially after 2024, Florida, Alaska, Nebraska at large, and Maine's 2nd congressional district, all going safe Republican no matter what. If you nuke them, they would be going Republican. For the Democrats, it's a different story. You have the Western Seaboard, California is going safe, Hawaii, Colorado, which has gone off a cliff for the Democrats, DC, most of the Eastern Seaboard, but not all of it, and you would also have Maine's 1st congressional district, and that's it for the Democrats. That is it for their safe states. The rest of this map would be competitive, and there would be a lot of toss-up states in 2028. Again, this is all depending on how good Donald Trump's term is, because if Trump doesn't do a good job, as I've said in my previous election videos, every presidential election is a referendum on the current commander-in-chief. So the Democrats, if it's Harris, they're going to absolutely talk about Trump and his policies during his second term. So now I'd like to talk about the likely Republican states, because there are going to be quite a few. And I want to go west to east in this scenario. So we're going to start with the state of Nevada and Arizona, because these two states really shocked the world. I was even surprised at how Republican they really turned out to be. Because if you look at 2024, you look at this map and you say, okay, Trump won Nevada by 4 points. He won Arizona by 5. No one was predicting that. The polling said that these would be extremely razor-thin states. And when you look at the map, you see Trump did very good in Carson City. He almost won Clark County. If you look at Arizona, same deal. He flipped Maricopa County and won it by 3%. He did good in the Tucson area. He did good in the entire state of Arizona. But it really makes you wonder with these two states what their electoral future is, because Democrats have been eyeing them for a while, saying that they're competitive and that they're going to be, swing states, and everybody was saying, including myself, that Arizona would be the next Ohio, right, the next true toss-up and battleground state. But 2024 proved that wrong, and Donald Trump did so good with Hispanic voters and minorities that I do believe that Arizona and Nevada could be more Republican than we think. And the same goes for North Carolina and Pennsylvania. These two states shifted Republican, and Donald Trump almost won Pennsylvania by 2%. he won the state by a lot more than what Biden won it back in 2020. And it goes to show that perhaps Pennsylvania, especially if you get the Amish to come out and vote, in addition to the Republican trends that are happening in the state of Pennsylvania, it really goes to show that Pennsylvania could be a likely Republican state. It could vote for J.D. Vance by 5% or more. We're just going to have to wait and see. The same goes for North Carolina. Trump won it by 3. Vance could win it by 5 or 6, depending on how good the environment is for Republicans in 2028. You also have the fact that a lot of conservatives from California are moving into Nevada, Arizona, Texas, North Carolina, and Georgia, and that's only going to help solidify those states as conservative leaning at best. And now I would like to talk about the lean states on this map because there are going to be quite a few. First, we're going to start with the lean Democrat states. And I think it would be safe to say that Maine at large would be lean Democrat. New York would also be lean Democrat. I'll explain why in a minute. And Illinois would also be lean Democrat. The reason why I say this is Maine at large has been shifting Republican. New York has also been shifting Republican. And if we look at 2024, which I know was a red wave year, Harris only won it by 12. This is a state that normally votes Democrat by 30 points. New York is like California in that regard, or it was like California. It would vote for the Democrats by over 30 points. And when you look at the shift from 2020, this is a common theme in New York City, in this area here, this metro area, but it just keeps getting redder and redder and redder. And we saw this back in 2020. We saw this in 2016 even a little bit. And when you look at the map and you look at New York, I don't think J.D. Vance could win it in 2028. I do think New York is trending more Republican. And in the future, say in the 2040s or a few decades from now, New York could absolutely be on the table. A lot of people are leaving the state. The state's population is shrinking, and they're going to places like Colorado, California, leaving New York. That's going to help move the state to be more Republican leaning. Now, I don't think Vance could win it in 2028. I do think it's possible New York could give us some good congressional races. We're just going to have to wait and see. As for Illinois, same deal. Chicago trended heavily Republican. It trended, it was 8 points, 6 points, 4 points, you name it. This county trended Republican. The entire state of Illinois trended Republican. So you look at the map, you see that Harris only won Illinois by 11 points. This is a state that normally votes for the Democrats by 20 to 25 points. It does make us question, could Illinois follow suit with New York? I believe the answer is yes. I also forgot to mention that Nebraska's second would also probably be lean Democrat. Harris would probably win it by 3 to 4 points. The same goes for New York and Illinois. So these states would be much more competitive. Now for the lean Republican states, I would say Georgia would be lean Republican, Wisconsin, Michigan. Now Wisconsin traditionally was the most conservative of the Rust Belt trio, but after 2024, that trend has been broken because Wisconsin became the most liberal of the Rust Belt trio. However, these three states always vote in line with each other. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. So if Wisconsin goes to Vance by 3% roughly, or 2.5%, you could also see Michigan go to Vance anywhere from 3 to 4%. And that all depends on turnout, because Michigan is a turnout state. It's not like Pennsylvania where there's lots of Republican registration. Michigan and Wisconsin are more based off of turnout. As for Georgia, the Atlanta metro area does continue to shift more and more Democrat. However, the outer parts, the outer regions of the Atlanta metro area correct that trend by shifting more Republican. So when you look at the map, Georgia could absolutely be the next lean Republican state. It could be the next North Carolina, and Biden winning it in 2020 might have been a fluke. And now that leaves us with the tilt states, the states that J.D. Vance would barely win, hypothetically, if it was Vance versus Kamala Harris. And the reason why Vance is doing so good in this prediction is, again, we're assuming that Trump has a really good second term, but also we're assuming that Harris runs again, and people don't want a loser. And what I mean by that is people want a change candidate. They don't want someone who's going to bring back the status quo. Biden was able to get in back in 2020 because of COVID and a pandemic, and the world was on fire. But typically speaking, people want change. So Harris doesn't bring change to the table, which is why I think you would see a massive dip off in Democrat turnout, and her favorables would be much lower. You would see staff writers talk about, what happened during her term with Biden, and I think that would further diminish her popularity. We're also basing these results off of 2024. So we're going to fill in the tilt states. And I think the first tilt state could be the state of New Mexico. Trump and Vance did very good with Hispanic voters, and that only helped shift the state further Republican. Now, while they didn't win it, New Mexico was within 6 points. And that's pretty impressive for a state that usually votes Democrat by 10 to 12 points. The same goes for Virginia. Virginia was closer than New Mexico, and Trump almost won it. It was within 5%. Now, this would also come down to turnout, and I do believe that Vance, at the end of the day, he may have a more establishmentarian appeal. He might also have an appeal to the suburban voters, more so than Trump did. Harris, not having high favorables or popularity within the Democrat Party, would probably flounder, especially in the Northern Virginia area, the DC metro area, and that would ultimately deliver the state of Virginia to J.D. Vance. It would be a fluke, but he would probably win it by 1% or less. The same goes for New Jersey, which I do believe would be tilt, and New Hampshire. These two states here would be very close. New Hampshire almost voted for Trump, but again, it would depend on how many people move to the state, Trump's performance, J.D. Vance's popularity, and the popularity of both of them as well, because as I've said previously, every presidential election is based off of a referendum off of the current commander-in-chief. So New Hampshire and New Jersey, these states did trend Republican. New Hampshire doesn't like incumbents, so actually I might switch that over to the Democrat column because typically they don't like incumbents. But New Jersey could be a different story, and you do see that New Jersey was one of the closest states. Harris only won it by 6. And while this was a red wave year, if Vance does better in the popular vote and he does better at campaigning there and getting Republicans to turn out in all states, then absolutely New Jersey could be winnable for the Republicans down the road. If not 2028, then in the 2030s, it could be a future swing state. And lastly, we are left with the state of Minnesota, which is a very difficult state to predict. I thought Harris was going to win it. I was right on that front. I also predicted that Trump could have won it back in 2024. However, if we look at the map, we see that Trump lost the state by 4 to Harris. The national environment was Trump plus 1.5 nationwide. So in order to win Minnesota, you would really need a Hail Mary, and you would need the stars to align. I just don't see it happening, but it's possible if the Vance campaign threw a lot of resources into the state of Minnesota, then absolutely you could see Minnesota go tilt Republican and break the Democrat spell that it's been under since 1976. So this is a hypothetical map. Kamala Harris running again in 2028 versus J.D. Vance trying to take the reins after Donald Trump. If you like this video, I kindly ask that you please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell for more content like this. And until next time, Politics Enhanced out.